My name's Jimmy. Welcome into the backstage pass area. We got a good show planned for everybody tonight, and we're looking forward to being here with you. Stage pass area. Hang on. We got a good show planned for everybody tonight, and we're looking forward to being here with you. Stage pass. All right, now, as I was saying, welcome into the microcosm, and I just want to let you know we are on the air.
Astounding. Time is fleeting. Madness takes its toll. But listen closely.
Not for very much longer.
I've got to keep control. I remember doing the time warp, drinking those moments when the blackness would hit me and the voice would be calling. Let's do the time warp again. Let's do the time warp again.
It's just a jump to the left. With your hands on your hips.
It's so dreamy. Oh, fantasy free me. So you can't see me. No, not at all. In another dimension. With voyeuristic intent.
So, we're getting ready to join Revolution
Today.
Revolution Radio at about 11 o'clock. You can find that at freedomslips.com. There's a great chat room over there. It's like 35, 40 people in there last week. So we got a great show planned tonight. We're going to be taking a look back at the year 1999 going into 2000 and the year 2000 and 2011 going into 2012. And we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the fear pushers that were running deep at the time of both of those years, because whenever there's threatened apocalyptic Armageddon type situations, people tend to pay attention. My name's Jimmy. And into the microcosm is on the air. Well, I'm trying to get everybody hooked up here. Trying to get Epic Journeyman hooked up. He didn't show a call. Yeah, it figures. That does figure. Anyway, so yeah, my name's Jimmy. Obviously, this is the pre-show. We're just getting everything tightened up before the show. And like I said, we're going to be taking a look at a couple different things. Hey, man, we're on the air over here on YouTube.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I was just telling people, I was giving people a little heads up about what we're going to be talking about. But, you know, the thing is, you know, Epic, whenever I get to talking about this Alex Jones topic, you know, of his broadcast in 2000, New Year's Eve, and Bill Cooper's like going over it, you know, it always makes me. I mean, since nobody knows what we're going to be doing on Revolution Radio right now, there's nobody over there tapping their foot waiting for us to do a show about a specific thing. I mean, right now, I feel like just completely. I mean, I got some audio from Jack Blood that just tears Alex Jones to pieces, man. I mean, from the inside. I mean, they were, out, Jack Blood was really in the organization for a period of time before he got, thrown out. But so I don't know, man. I'll probably just lay back. I think that little piece I sent you, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it. That's going to be the opening piece for the show when we start over on Revolution Radio. So I don't know if
I heard it. Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah. So I'd probably just leave it at that, and then we could just talk about it. But as we're talking about it, I know I'm gonna want to play that Jack Blood, man. You know what happened to Jack Blood and Alex Jones? Have you ever heard me talk about it before?
Yeah. We played it on one of the shows actually, where he got ran off basically, and he went. He had another show going at the same time, right? And then well, I thought he did, and he was able to go off on the radio and just talk about what happened to him, right? Wasn't that him? I could have sworn we talked about that.
Man, dude, I swear to God, I got this weird doll.
My name is Talking Tina.
No, it's not like
Not
that.
that doll.
No,
Not that doll.
It actually kind of looks like Kev Baker, and I was gonna fucking tease around with it. Now, I'm telling you, man, I'm not bullshitting you, dude, on this. I swear to God, this is the honest to God truth. Every single time I've put this doll somewhere, wherever I've put it, it's fallen off onto the floor on its own. Every time since I brought it home.
Yeah, it's time to find another doll, man. I've had that happen. I got some. Sometime we'll have a ghost story special, like a paranormal special. Heck, we could do it tonight. We're gonna talk
you gotta see this.
I got some stories, man.
Well, yeah, you gotta see this. I gotta show you this doll. Here, let me get back on camera on YouTube, because I'm on YouTube. I'm on camera, so I can show the doll.
Yeah, I'm trying to get on there right now.
All right, hang on. See it? Look at this. I mean, I'm not making fun of it. I'm just saying, look at it. Look at it.
Yeah, I see it. It's one of those. There is a Twilight Zone episode with a doll like that. Yeah. The guy became the world's greatest ventriloquist, right? I forget the name of the episode. Yeah, where it was.
All right,
possessed,
so see,
right?
look, I'm gonna put it right here. Okay. It's sitting there. That's just exactly where it was sitting a few minutes ago, and the thing just like jumped right off of the thing onto the floor. Seriously, man. I mean,
Now what's weird is when it ends up in another room.
Yeah, that'll be weird. I mean, do you remember there was an episode, I forget, it was like the new Twilight Zone or something, and there was this episode where they went to some islands, and they got some doll, and they brought it home. It was like a statue, and they brought it home, put it in their bag, their
Trilogy of Terror with Karen Black. It runs around a little spear, right? Chasing around the house.
Yeah, it runs around the house.
Yeah.
It's got like a machete.
Trilogy of Terror. Yeah. It's based on an old novella, like a really short story from the 1962, I think, somewhere in there, called "Back There in the Grass." I read that story actually. Yeah, it's a scary story, man, too.
Damn, I'm trying to remember the name of this movie. Where it's like, damn, it's an old movie, but it was really good. It was about, it was like one of those, I want to say, Cary Grant type characters, one of those male role modelers, and some kids, and it was like, I want to say it's To Kill a Mockingbird, but I'm not sure that's it. For some reason, that's the name of the movie that's coming to mind.
What it has a doll in it too? I don't think that's Kill a
No,
Mockingbird,
it doesn't
though.
have a doll in it. It has nothing to do with dolls, but it's, I mean, as far as doing movies, if we were to do some black and whites, it's a really good one. Like 12 Angry Men, that's another good one.
Oh, 12 Angry Men's a good one all the time. Yeah, the
Yeah,
original one.
you know what? Yeah, the original, of course.
Henry Ford, right?
I really, really, as soon as possible, I really want to jump on Rollerball, man.
We should do a Rollerball Death Race 2000 combo.
Well, yeah, well, okay, I'm with you on it, but I think Rollerball in and of itself is like a whole show. That's 2 hours, man. Because, I mean, you can't get into Rollerball without it.
Well, because it has a whole corporate sponsorship aspect.
That's
right?
what I mean.
Corporatism. It's fascism. I mean, this is what fascism can become.
That's what
people
I mean.
call it corporatism. Corporatism is fascism, and yeah, that's exactly
The
what it is.
metaphor of that movie is really good. But anyways, that's one I want to do soon. But, I mean, there's so many. Billy wants us to come on and do, we're going to be doing a movie show on Billy's show. He wants us to come on and do a movie show like we're doing on our show for him, though. But, like, and so he's mentioned a couple of movies to me. One of them he's mentioned was Eyes Wide Shut.
I got a lot in the Eyes Wide Shut. We talked about that on, privately about how all these things, and it's really interesting that I was bringing up about the masks, because the masks play a lot into that. Right, and how it's the Orphic Circle, and how it's about Dionysian masks, which go into the Roman pantomime masks later on.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You have to know what those are, right? And lately, Joe Rogan, and within 1 week, Joe Rogan and Corbett, right? Corbett Report had this exact thing with the masks, the doctor masks. What are the odds of that happening, right? Why all of a sudden now?
Yeah, well,
trip.
It's it's interesting.
It really is, because it means that there's they got it out ahead of the game, right? Because they must know that people are learning about it and going to talk about it.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, those masks used to be full of like whatever. They used to put lavender and all this in there because the people's bodies stunk so bad from the plague.
Right, and those are the Venetian masks that use the Birdman masks, right? But there's also the ones prior to that, and it was trippy because the plays, it was kind of neat. The actors took on the role of that character, right? And they used different masks, right, throughout one actor throughout the entire show. And when they were done, they burnt the masks, or threw away the masks, or whatever, sacrificed the masks. So there's very little of those.
I'm really
masks,
interested in masks, man. I mean, I cruise around to secondhand stores or whatever, Goodwills and stuff. I'm always looking for masks. I made some masks of my own. I made a mask, and it was so. I mean, it takes on a life of its own, man. I mean, it actually becomes something from nothing, and you're creating it, and it was like. I didn't want to give it a name, dude, because I didn't want it to come alive, man. It was a pretty intense.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like the doll next to you right now, sitting over your shoulder. You don't want to put too much energy into it because you've given this shape a part of your consciousness. Yeah.
Well, no,
of,
this
like,
mask. So I made
right?
I made the mask as a birthday present for a friend of mine, and he's a really tight buddy of mine, and he was the guitar player in the band that I was in, and I called it the Object. I mean, that's all I could do, you know. And I think I have a picture of it. I can probably throw it in here at some point and show you guys what I'm talking about. I mean, this isn't. I mean, the picture itself. I mean, after I took a picture of it, I never saw it again. Like, I gave it to him and I never saw it. But I continue to make masks anyway. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, that song by The Doors, "The End" or whatever, and he goes into the ancient. He picks a mask off the wall and walks on down the hall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you have to know what those are, because it's funny that it's so hard to find now. Like, if you look up, everybody looks at their bicycle playing cards, for example, and you have the Joker. And back in the 70s, you can go down to libraries and find where that came from. But here we have the internet right now, and you have to hunt hard to find where that came from. Where'd that Joker mask? Where'd that come from? It's a Harlequin mask, but where did that specifically come from? And the thing is, it's deliberately buried. It seems to me it's really difficult to find, and I don't think that's something that should be hard to find, right? Because I remember finding it as a kid all the time. You could look up all these kind of things in the library.
Well,
and I'm sure it's still there, but it should be online too, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole concept of the mask in and of itself is that you take on the character of the mask that you put on. And everybody wears masks. Everybody's got their masks that they wear. In certain situations, people act a certain way, when they're at work, but then when they go home, they act a different way. And then when they're down at the bar, they act another way. And, everybody's switching these masks off. But, I mean, I think it's important, that you brought those pantomimes up, which, have relation to those masks.
They do.
And they also have relation, to what we were having that discussion about what's his nuts. And, but, the thing is Jim Morrison said the killer took a mask down off the wall and walked on down the hall. And, I mean, I just think it's interesting because, it seems like Manson seemed to be really into the Beatles' White Album, but he never said a word about the Doors. You know what I mean? He seems more... He seems more Morrison-like, Manson as a character.
Well, he's a pretty. Well, we all know he's a trippy character, no pun intended. But the thing that blows me away about him is that in most of the institutions he was in, he claims he was never allowed to have a mirror. Now, part of that's just being in prison in general, I guess. But he was in solitary so much that he was when he got caught and sentenced the last time, he'd spent 19 years of his life in prison, and he was only 30 whatever years old, right? So most of his life, like 2/3 of his life in prison. So he didn't have a mirror. I'm sure he did in the early years when he was a kid, basically, but he didn't later. So where did he get all this practice time in to practice all those expressions? Because he does it really well. He's obviously proud of his skills, right? So where did he do it? Where did he learn it, right? And it's just one of those enigmas you have to look at and say, man, that's where did he learn that exactly? Because he's got it nailed. He really does,
Yeah, it's trippy, man.
And so that grab a mask off the wall and head on down the hall. I mean, traditionally, when you think of like the Academy of Motion Pictures or something like that, they have the happy and sad masks, tragedy and comedy masks. They always spooked me as a kid, those two masks. They always spooked me. We had them in the house. I hated them, right? It's one of those things in the 60s people had, right? And I hated those things. And if you go to the Academy or you become an actor, you know how it is. You go to SAG or something, they have they have them up there, or anywhere, in a theater kind of environment, to have them. But they miss all the other ones. There's all those other masks, those pantomime masks from Roman pantomime, those other masks, and they've been around for a long time. So if you go down the hall, grab one off the wall and go down the hall, it means there's other masks, right?
That's what I mean.
How many people in 1968 or 7 or whatever do that?
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, how many... everybody picks, the mask they're going to wear for the day or whatever, The mask you're wearing is is what the, the people see. So, like, when the shaman and the people that would do these dancing and intense, rhythmic entrancement around these fires with these masks on, these different masks representing different aspects of the self or demons or whatever you want to call them.
Spirits, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
voodoo specifically, excuse me, was those big giant African voodoo masks. Well, they're so big because, like you say, they didn't just wear them on their face. They held them, behind the fire when they acted out and danced and did all these things. And yeah, I always thought that was interesting. That one Rolling Stones album was called Voodoo Lounge, because I went to it as a kid. I ended up stuck in some music store. My dad was shopping for a guitar or something. I was like upstairs, and they put me in this room. It was totally full of those masks, man. Those voodoo masks. But around those voodoo masks, like a guitar stand with a trumpet, and then there'd be like a bass guitar, like an old wood bass, upright bass or something. And I'm sitting there by myself up in the corner while he's doing whatever he's doing in the music store. It's after hours. And I was spooked as a kid, man. I was like 9 years old looking at that stuff before I ever heard like that album or anything like that. Those are scary masks.
Dude, I was up in Hood River, and I was doing the Adidas complex up in Portland. They were building a whole big, giant new complex, and I was installing a bunch of cell signal in there for them. And I was up there. I went to this Goodwill, and I go in there, and there's like 9 masks, like taped together, and it was like $50 or something. And I saw them, and I was like, damn. And this was at this point I wasn't into masks. This is what started getting me into it. And I saw them, and I was like, man, I didn't get them, and I left. And I kept thinking about them. I kept going, fuck, man, I should go back. So then I haul my ass all the way back over there, and it's only like 15 minutes later. I get back over there, man, and there's some lady standing there with them in her hand, and she's like looking at them and stuff, and I'm trying to like mill around, see if she's gonna put them down or whatever. Now she didn't put them down. She just kept on going all the way up to the register, and I was like, man, So that's what started my quest for finding masks at the Goodwill, or whatever kind of secondhand stores or whatever.
We're definitely gonna have to do a show on this, because we put a lot of research into masks in general, but I think that when you look at it today, like they're hidden. I mean, they're becoming increasingly hidden.
All right, well, listen. Let me just. I'm not trying to cut you off. I just hold on a second. We got 7 minutes left before the show has to connect, so I just want to let you know I got to do a few things. So, you got the floor here for about 4 minutes or so, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how many people got listening. I see 2 watching on YouTube, but I'm going to go ahead and talk some more about some masks, I guess, because I think it's a trippy thing to make people consider.
Yeah, it's not about right now anyway. It's about the future as far as people listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, so if you go to Las Vegas and you go to the Rio Casino, or you go to half the old ones like the Flamingo, almost all the original ones from the Strip, Sahara, all those. They all had the dancers that had masks. They had the flamingo dancers and stuff that did their burlesque shows basically. And then but you go beyond that, and they took the Mardi Gras theme, and that's still like going on at the Orleans, because it's all over Las Vegas. But Harrah's Casino specifically is the one that's really a trip, because it's got that Pluto character, or that Harlequin character out front, riding the sled to the underworld, with the horns of plenty on the other side, and the golds, coming out of the cornucopias on either side of his raft. And if you go inside the casino, it's full of all these masks, and there's several of the Harlequin jesters, perched throughout the casino, all over the place. And if you look up at the top, you'll see that there's a configuration of stars, 7 stars. And you'll see the masks again, and there's trumpets that they're blowing, like that they're hearkening in and announcing the arrival of something. And this theme is all over the place. And you go back and find out where this was. Well, this is where, along with, but specifically this casino, is where the Rat Pack used to perform. This is where Sammy Davis and Frank Sinatra and all those guys were back in the old Harrah's Casino. And you look at the location where it's located on the Strip, and it's really interesting, the alignments it has that line up with the Venetian next door, and the amount of feet to certain distances, and the exact alignments through, like looking through certain windows. But this mask theme is pretty important in a way, because it ties back into the Venetian next door, because the Venetian next door is also themed on the Dionysian theme, and you have all these old Greek gods and old the floor is amazing. It's modeled after a real cathedral over in Venice. But in Venice is where they invented the original masquerades and the original those masks. Where for a day when they had the masquerade, all the poor were with the rich. They could go out and mingle, and everybody, you didn't know if you're dealing with a rich person or a poor person, so everybody let it loose that day. And that was important to the mask. You could be anybody behind the mask, and the person on the other side didn't know who you were, you didn't know who they were. So you could be talking to the king, or the king could be talking to the the lowest person and think that they're rich. Wouldn't know. It's all about being hidden behind that mask.
I know. That's cool, man. I mean, masks are metaphorically and, physically cool. I'm trying to get you guys the shot, or get you the shot of my mask. I'm just waiting for these pictures to boot up on Facebook. So that's where I archive all my artwork, and I play. I don't post anything on Facebook, no news, nothing like that. I've never posted it. If anybody I know posts it on my page, I delete it. So I mean, the only reason I did the Facebook page in the first place was because I wanted to be able to keep in contact with radio people, because everybody on the shows all has Facebooks. So
I did a GoFundMe. I think I told you, right? The GoFundMe to try to hire a private investigator to help me find the Sinbad genie movie.
Really?
And it made me join Facebook. I went my whole life without joining Facebook since 2004, and sometime in 2017, I had to join for a day, and I hated it. Yeah, I just abandoned the whole thing because I couldn't deal with being on Facebook.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm gonna find you this Atlantean priest mask that I made, because after I was done with it, and I looked at it, I was like, man, this is an Atlantean priest mask, high priest. I'm rolling for it, man. We only got a few minutes before it. The thing is, man, what sucks, I gotta go connect. What sucks is when I go connect, we're gonna have to sit there and wait for all that shit to play for however many minutes. I don't know how many minutes it goes underneath the situation, but I gotta go now and do it. All right, here we go. Going on over to the situation, so I'm gonna block this out for a second.
All right, yeah, I'll be back.
All right, just go ahead and mute yourself up. All right, we're connected, YouTube, to the network. So we gotta sit here in silence for a minute. So if you're listening in the future, just fast forward at a couple minutes. I'm not sure how many minutes we gotta wait. I think it goes until like 4 minutes after or something like that. Alright, I'm trying to find this mask picture over here. I don't know why I'm dicking around with this right now when I should be getting myself ready for the show. Just only because we were having that conversation about it earlier, just a moment ago. I think these pictures are like, a couple years ago, so that's got to go way back. Back in time. How far are you going back? Way back. Back in time. Troglodytes. Alright. I better go over to that fucking chat room. Right now. But first, I gotta get this. And then I gotta get Time Warp. And I gotta get Pirate Radio. Where is it? QRST Elemental P.
Mothership has landed. Opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listeners. Mothership has landed. Pirate Radio. Welcome to the jungle.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from the broken down, low-rent, sleazy, double greasy Pirate Radio Nut Hut Studios, it's time for the very first ever Southern...
Attention. Attention, please. You are receiving a pirate radio transmission. On the air for testing purposes only. Do you receive? Do you receive?
Music since February 12, 1973.
My name's Jimmy. And you're knee-deep in the revolution. Into the Microcosm is on the air, and welcome. Welcome in. Come on in. It's time to get small. Real small. Epic. Are you there? You are there, and I am here, and the listeners are there. And the chat room is at freedomslips.com/chat. Stand by a second, Epic. Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Oh, all good, all good.
Yes, I just wanted to get your volume there together. So, welcome into the Microcosm tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to do the Time Warp. Aren't we, Epic?
We are.
I know. Well, let's just get into it, Epic. Here we go.
Time is fleeting. Madness takes its toll. But listen closely.
Not for very much longer.
I've got to keep control.
It's just a jump to the left.
look to the future. All the way to the year 2000.
You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I got the tapes that you sent me, Liz, and a few of you others who sent me tapes from December the 31st. And I have been doing exactly what I told you I was going to do. I've been going through them today, and I was going to edit a big long tape of and it's difficult. I've got to tell you, there is so much fear mongering and so much inaccurate reporting and all kinds of stuff that it's hard. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make the rest of this week a series of this stuff. And tonight's going to sort of set the stage. And you'll discover, if you were listening last night, why what you're going to hear tonight is so important. These are just short snippets of the Alex Jones Show from New Year's Eve, December the 31st. This is news. This is news, ladies and gentlemen. What you're going to hear here, what he's saying is deception. It's fear-mongering. It scared the hell out of literally millions of people, and it got worse later. You're not even going to hear the worst part. You're just going to hear the beginning, because what you're going to hear tonight is just taken from the first 45 minutes of his broadcast. His broadcast on December the 31st, New Year's Eve. These are just little snippets taken from the first 45 minutes of the Alex Jones Show. I didn't take everything that was scary, because we don't have time to do that if we're going to talk about it. But I took just little snippets from the first 45 minutes, and his broadcast, I think, is 3 hours long. And it gets a lot worse as time goes on. You can hear the fear and the excitement and the adrenaline in Alex Jones's voice later on. You're not going to hear so much of that in the early stages of the broadcast. And then he goes on later on the Midas report with Michael Trudeau, and it totally gets out of hand. What you're going to hear is a build-up, and then later. And this is what makes me think that the whole thing was staged, because this buildup sets the stage for full-blown panic across the country later. And you'll hear about that either tomorrow night or Thursday. But you're going to hear it, because this is just absolutely incredible. So stay tuned, folks, and be careful. You'll all get scared. I mean, just listening to this stuff on New Year's Eve, December the 31st, I had the Genesis Communications Radio Network patched through 101.1 FM, because I wanted the people in the Valley to hear what everybody else in the country was hearing, and they don't get anything here but music. That's all they get on all the stations, including mine, except for the Hour of the Time. So I wanted them to hear what everybody else in the nation was hearing, so that if there was a full-blown panic, they'd know why, because I knew these people were going to build everybody up into a lather. And the reason, you know, I got to tell you, folks, there's times when law enforcement and government agencies and things like that are needed. And if these guys had succeeded, if they had actually succeeded in whipping up a hysteria that would have caused a large segment of the population to panic and riot in the streets, and I think this is maybe what they were trying to create. I don't know this for sure, but you'll see as we go through these 3 nights and you hear the build-up to what could have been an absolute catastrophe. And it all came from these people. And it's just absolutely incredible. I mean, people really went off the deep end. A lot of people got scared. Some people got sick. A lot of people headed literally for the hills just from listening to these guys. This is not a joke. I'm not kidding you. It really happened, just exactly as I've described. So stay tuned. You're going to hear it all. It's incredible, too.
You know, I've seen a lot of people walking around with tombstones in their eyes. But the butcher don't care.
sitting in the tree going... A chimpanzee can't talk, so they just go... You understand that? See, I'm normal. You're not normal. Am I the weirdo, or are you the weirdo? Whose head's screwed on straight? Mine or yours? You should look in the mirror and be shocked by what you are. I'm done talking to you, scum. And you are, you're scum. I'm the weirdo because I'm sitting in the tree.
My name's Jimmy. And, yeah, man, going into the year 2000, Epic, do you remember that? Do you remember all the hype about Y2K and everything that was all built up? Because I remember a lot of these broadcasts, and Bill Cooper was instrumental in kind of early on pointing out the ridiculous fear-mongering, whatever, that was going on back then. But, I mean, you know, what's a little fear-mongering when you're trying to sell some gold or some storable foods? I mean, it doesn't hurt to do a little fear-mongering every now and then, sell a few items at the back in the ranch, does it? I mean, you know, twice a year you get, you know, what is it, September 23rd? I was surprised this year because typically there's a lot of these dates. Like September 23rd is one of them for some reason. A bunch of years in a row, something was going to happen. September 23rd, it never happened. But it's funny because they just keep on going. But Bill Cooper, I got some tape here. I don't know if the chat room's into it, but I got some tape from that Bill Cooper broadcast that we could play. That's pretty interesting. But go ahead, Epic. What do you think about 1999 going into 2000? Because there's a lot here, and let's take our time. Because we just got here. I'm just now warm. I just now got a warm cup of coffee. I just lit a cigarette, and I'm ready to rock. So tell me what you thought about 1999 to 2000, and then I'll tell you what I've done some research on the subject. So go ahead.
Well, there was a lot of buildup to 2000, and it was a fever pitch leading into it with YF, or excuse. Sorry, I had a little echo there. The whole 2K, YF2K thing, and there was also the whole thing with just so many of the apocalyptic religions kept focusing on that turning of the calendar, which doesn't mean anything at all. I mean, the turning of the calendar doesn't really mean anything. But you were wrong about one thing, man. Something did happen on September 23rd. You know what it was? September 23rd. It comes every year. It happens every year.
It happens every year. It's amazing.
Yeah. But there was an alignment or two that they were trying to, last time was the Blood Harvest Moon and all that stuff. But I remember it vividly, and I think we were both kind of at our peaks, both professionally and intellectually, probably at the time, to be able to really appreciate it because, you got the real feel for what it was like, and it was nothing like what they tried to build it into whatsoever when it came. It kind of came and went out it was like a dud. It fizzled out, right? It's like, they tried all these things, but nothing really major happened. But the things we're going to bring up did happen. I mean, the things that happened in the media happened. The things that changed and soon afterwards changed in the world happened. So,
well, no, and also, if you were a person who was listening to, say, if you were listening to an Art Bell or you were listening to these shows, and I mean, as it was coming, as Y2K was coming, people, it started years in advance, and it started getting closer and closer and closer and closer, and lots of people, including myself, bought food and, stored food and told people to store food. And ever since the next day of 2000, the first day of 2000, I never heard the end of it from those people. Yeah, man. Well, what happened? I went out and bought that food. But, hey, man,
It expired in 2001, right? I had to last 2 years.
It was worse. It lasts 25 years. So, typically, it's still good till 2025, I guess. So, but, and that silver they bought, if they sold it at 50, they made a bunch of money because they bought it at 13. But, who am I to, point at obvious facts? My name's Jimmy. That's who. I might not be Mr. Right, but I'm definitely Mr. Right now. And if you're here and you're now and you would like to help out, we are self-supported through your contributions. We do our part on our end. Hopefully you can help out in some kind of way. If you can't do it financially, maybe you can do it in such a way that you could share it, share the station with people, let other people know. Do as much as you can. If you can do something, that'd be great, and we'd appreciate it. Because, like I said, we are self-supporting, and if we are all putting our energy into something positive, moving in a direction, I don't see how we can go wrong. And there's such a diverse amount of shows on the network. You have A and B. And there's something for everyone, and I just appreciate being here, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity, Epic, to be part of the Revolution Radio family. And I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, if you can, jump over to freedomslips.com. There's an area there. There's a bunch of different ways. If you make a donation, that not only do you get great radio and you get great archives, but also you might get something, like a memory stick that's good for an EMP, or, some seeds, or there's a whole bunch of stuff over there. It's kind of like public radio in a sense that if you donate, you get the radio plus you get like a gift. So head on over, find out what gift is one that rings your bell, and then ba-boom, it's Jersey Shore all over again. I saw somebody in the chat talking about Jersey Shore. Devo's in there. Regula girl. Hey, Regula. What's up, man? It's good to see you. Mine eye. Justin Aldrich. Dave Scotts is in. Hey, Dave. Kristen. Kunskrieg is in there. Wall E. Blasphemous. Hang on. I think that's Blasphemous Buddha, but I gotta open the screen wider so I can see your full names. For some reason, I'm only getting the cut off names, but I'm pretty sure that's Blasphemous Buddha. Batsman's in there. Benhu. They said it's my son, but I'm not the one. Benhu. Simply Red's in there. Saul Rosenberg. What's going on? Me. Zippy's in there. 1302. Stardust Man somewhere down there. That's about all I can see, you guys, and it's nothing personal if I'm missing you. Epic, can you see anybody? Are you in your virtual reality helmet at this moment?
I am. Right now I'm in YouTube, so I see Adam Collins over here, and people are starting to come on over. So, yeah, I had the Freedom Slips open, but I opened the chat and it gave me that whole choose your color thing and all that stuff, so I got lost in that thing. I had to bail out. So I have to reboot that up to get back in the chat room.
Yeah, all right. Well, it's all good. So, one of the things that I remember, we're starting to get into 1999, into the year 2000, and the year 2000. But we were talking about Y2K, and this is all prior to the year 2000 that we're talking about, the moment leading up to the very first moment of the year 2000. And so go ahead, Epic. What do you remember? Because there's a whole, as much as I'm not a fan of Richard C. Hoagland, I must admit that back in the day, he did a very interesting piece on the astronomical lineups on the year 2000, 1999, going into 2000, and the particular design of the crystal ball that was being dropped, and the obelisks across the planet for that particular new year had lighting that was going around it, like wrapped around it. And even the Washington Monument was under construction, like they were refurbishing it. and it had scaffolding going around it, and it had lighting too. And so it's a very interesting moment in time, and I almost think in my mind, I mean, what I can think back to this moment, I think this is the moment that darkness took over. This is the moment that we moved into a new framework into the year 2000, and it had nothing to do with the chip. But I mean, even in the pop culture, we could talk a little bit about it. But because one of the things I want to bring up is Woodstock '99, right? So
yeah, that's a good subject.
Yeah, because you see the contrast between the generations. You see what was going on during the first Woodstock, and then you see what happened at Woodstock '99, and I'm just pointing to basically. It's more or less that it's not, and I'm not saying that the people there that got pissed and, started breaking shit, I'm not saying they didn't have a point in some level because, I mean, they were trying to charge $8 for a bottle of water there. And it was like, the thing was out on an airfield where there was no water, and it was like 200 degrees out there, man. And people were dying of water. It was just awfully, there was a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of frustration by the end of the thing, and and then you had Limp Bizkit came on stage. They played break stuff or whatever, and I think stuff happened, and that's when it just went off. And I have some original news footage from the day after. It's kind of grainy, okay. The sound quality is not all that great. Yeah, thanks, Blasphemous. That's a great song. I'll play that tonight, too, for sure. So, anyhow, I got the audio epic from that Woodstock, following what happened in Woodstock '99. But this is original news audio. It's kind of scratchy, but it sounds kind of cool in a way. It sounds kind of radio-ish, like you're trying to tune in a station or whatever. My name's Jimmy. You've tuned in the station called Revolution Radio, and you're knee-deep in it on Into the Microcosm. We're here every Friday night and every Monday afternoon or evening, as it were. What we're talking about tonight, we're time warping back in time. How far back we going back? Way back. 1999. We're talking about some of the contrasts between the mentalities of the population and the transition from waiting for the age of Aquarius to come to moving into the age of Aquarius and into the golden age epic. And nothing but chaos at Woodstock '99.
Was stopped moments ago so fire trucks could get in.
And a team of Eyewitness News 5 photojournalists worked through the night covering this story. And our Team 5 coverage begins this morning with Keith Copeland, who's standing by live in Rome, New York. Good morning, Keith. What can you tell us?
Oh, good morning, Donna. What I can tell you is it's quiet out here right now. Probably the quietest it's been over the last few days. I arrived here at the former Griffiths Air Force Base within the past hour. I can tell you I saw a lot of traffic streaming along the New York State Thruway, heading out of town. A lot of concert goers obviously hitting the road this morning and trying to head home and leave the grounds. You saw some of the pictures a few seconds ago, and last night certainly quite a scene here. There were fires burning throughout the afternoon, but we understand that those fires grew through the day, maybe a half dozen or so, and then they got larger in intensity, and then you can see pieces of the peace wall, ironically enough, torn down as well. We had a chance to speak with some of the concert promoters a short while ago, as you see state police moving in there. They talked a little bit about the future of Woodstock in the wake of last night's incidents.
To have this terribly unfortunate situation blemish, put a permanent blemish on what was accomplished here this weekend. You're right. The mayor of Rome was here and invited us back 5 years from now. The three producers were very optimistic. We were feeling very positive.
As I said before, Don, I arrived here within the past hour. Eyewitness News 5's Catherine Craig has been here all weekend long. You were here during the height of it last night. Catherine also had a chance to speak with some of the vendors, too.
Absolutely. And one thing that we talked about with just fans going to Socrates, New York in 1994 for the Woodstock 94 concert, nothing like this happened over there. But certainly there was some looting of vendors around the festival time, around when the festival was wrapping. Some vendors we spoke here last night also had a tough time.
We were just afraid that we were going to get hurt. We all had pipes and stuff trying to protect ourselves because we didn't know what was going to happen. It started off with just a few bonfires in the garbage cans, and then before we knew it, the stage was part of the stage was on fire, and then the tractor trailers, and then explosions, and
it's pretty disgusting. I can't believe that people would wreck the place like this. The absolute weirdest thing I saw was the fact that over there, about 40 yards or so, was 4 ATM machines, and they managed to disappear in under 2 minutes.
First, I was afraid for the stuff. I was afraid for all the merchandise. I was afraid it was going to get stolen. Then I was just afraid. I didn't want to get hurt. I didn't want anybody I was with to get hurt. And it really bothered me because this is supposed to be about peace, and it was destruction for no reason.
And some vendors we talked with last week expected to make at least $10,000 from the merchandise they made, and we want to catch up with some of them this week just to see if everything went well and if they lost or if they didn't lose anything.
Yeah, and when you hear about this story throughout the day, obviously if you're waking up right now and this is...
Stay away, mother... It's just one of those days! It's all about the he said, she said, bullshit. I think you better quit, better just slip, or you're gonna leave it with a fat lip. It's all about the he said, she said, bullshit. I think you better quit, talking that bitch. It's just one of those days, feeling like a freight train. First one to complain, leaves with the blood stain. Damn right, I'm a maniac, you better watch your back.
Wakey, wakey. Are you there, Epic? Are you there?
I am here. Yes, I was talking to our friend from down under there, Ken, the Rutman, Lumkanate.
All right.
Is in the chat. So I'm talking to him over here on the YouTube channel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he was saying it looks like the doll from Magic over your shoulder there.
I know.
Remember the movie Magic?
I know. It's a trippy doll. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I went to a secondhand store. I found this doll. And so the doll is sitting next to me on a chair, and I'm on YouTube. So I was telling Epic, I mean, I don't want to get too far into this doll, man, but the thing's jumped off. Every place I've put it since I've had it, it's fallen onto the floor. And so far it's stayed on here for a bit, but it jumped off of here earlier when we were on YouTube. And I'm going to go back and look at the video later. Well, my name's Jimmy, and we are on Revolution Radio, and you can head on over to the chat room over there. There's a whole bunch of people in there. There's more people than I can even see, and I know there's a certain way that you can find and see everyone, but I don't know how it is or what it is. But Epic, what a contrast between, I don't even want to say Woodstock 94. Let's just go right back to 60, let's go back 50 years, to the original Woodstock. The contrast between the young people and where their heads were at, and the mentality of the people, like what was happening at the time. I mean, the type of music that was popular at the time, the energy that was coming out. Korn. You had Korn on there, same thing. There's all kinds of stuff going on at that concert. I mean, I wish Billy Ray was here because he was actually there. He could actually speak to it.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Epic.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't go to Woodstock, but I wish I had. I was a little too young. I don't think they take kids there. But, the difference is that they hitchhiked. People hitchhiked from all over the country to go there. It was free. They were camping out, basically, and sharing everything they had and living a communal living for days, not weeks before the concert.
Hold on. It was free after they overran the place.
Well, that's true. Yeah, let's not make it. It was.
But it was non-violent. They just kind of overran the place, and they were half naked, so it was all good that time. But you know,
right,
and
and
they weren't burning
turn back
shit
a bunch
down.
of people in LST
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they could, you could let them just come on, I guess.
They weren't burning shit down either.
No, they weren't burning stuff down, and it was a whole different thing. I mean, the point that I was going to make actually is the people who performed for free, the majority of them. So I don't know if anybody got paid. You know, if anybody got paid, I don't think anybody did. They just went there, and a lot of people, once they started seeing the list grow and grow, people who were on tour canceled their tour to artists canceled their tour to come there. And I think that's the big difference between the two. Like the later, the Woodstock '99, they were getting paid. People were charging $8 a water bottle, like you said. It was a commercial event, and you can't take the spirit of what that was, the first one, and then commercialize it to the extent that if you aren't paying, you're not getting to go, and if you do pay, you're not given the facilities they need and everything to do what they need to do to be comfortable while they're there. And that's what their frustration was. And plus, the music wasn't the peaceful hippie music of the 60s at the time. It was a little more violent and uprising kind of music. Plus, people thought the world was going to end next year. That's kind of the whole point.
Well, yeah,
I think
that's what I mean. There was a whole vibe too, because there was that band. So in a reference like MTV, this was a big period of time where TRL, Total Request Live, was on, and this is when they were popular. They had like a top 10 or whatever that they would play, and then it was Carson Daly was on there, and this was a period of time where they had Limp Bizkit, Korn, Foo Fighters, all these different bands, but one of the bands that was around was Creed. And it's interesting, man, because like Creed was clearly a Christian dude band, they were Christians. And it was interesting how they got ostracized by these other bands, say going into the year 2000. I mean, this whole thing developed where there was this classic sort of metaphorical battle between good and evil right at this moment in time, right at, this striking of midnight on this particular day, that was the day that darkness took over Epic, some people say. Now, how do you go from, you look at the context of some of these characters that we've seen, these pop culture characters, like, for example, you saw Christina Aguilera sort of groomed over at the Disney thing, and then she kind of came out, genie in a bottle, rub me the wrong way or rub me the right way or whatever. And then after the year 2000, man, she's dirty. I mean, she's bare knuckle boxing in a ring after she comes riding in on a dirt bike, and basically after she bloodily beats people in this pit, where there's all these people screaming and yelling, Method Man comes in, and she basically lap dances with Method Man in a G-string. So, I mean, the context of the moral, things that are acceptable and not acceptable, a lot of things changed, I think, in the year 2000, and they had to move forward into this more violent, lower vibrational mentality type of thing. What do you think about that?
So I had to unmute there. So the thing I noticed definitely about it was that there was so much anticipation and so much fatalism and so much idea that the apocalypse was going to happen on one part. I mean, all those Left Behind movies and things came out in the context of the books. That got one part of the population, believing that suddenly, that was going to be end. It's a prophecy. It's going to be 2000. It's going to happen. You had all these other people who just believed that, Y2K was going to, destroy all the computers and wipe out the financial system. And that's why you need to have all your 30-year stores of food and all those things. Yeah, it was really sold to everybody. They really, really pushed that. But you were talking about Hoagland earlier and how he had like the work showing like how it diagrams out, where these things go and how they line up and how it looks when you look at it from above and everything. But I thought that Freeman did a good job, and I think he got some of that from Hoagland, talking about how when Clinton was there for the capping, the bottom line of this is that the finale, the grand finale, was the capping of the Great Pyramid in Giza with gold. It was a gold capstone. And it turns out the guys who were flying over, they were flying in the gold capstone. They had a rebellion, it turns out, on the plane. These Arabs on the plane. It was a Saudi Airlines or whatever it was, something like that. It was coming from there. Supposedly they had something of a mutiny, basically, the crew, and they crashed the plane. And the speech that was going on at the time that Bill Clinton was delivering at the time was, after all these other sites you're talking about, these other obelisks and the drop and everything else that were happening, none of the drop had happened yet, but the speech was, it's a rising sun. It's a rising sun. And he gave that rising sun speech. It was supposed to culminate with at night when they had on the Giza Plateau with the capping of the pyramid. Of course, they didn't get to do that because the plane went down. So you have to wonder, there was a plan in motion, it looks like. Those alignments that Hoagland talked about might have been legitimate. Maybe they weren't. We can research it and find out. But there definitely was something planned that didn't happen. And it was just whether it was fate that intervened or the people on that plane that did. And it didn't happen. But what you're pointing out is that things did take a violent turn. After that, they did. Things went, much. I think it did get darker after that.
Well, yeah, and then like a year later, you got 9/11 or whatever. So ever since then, ever since that moment in time, there was a moment in time, right? And then, there's a subsequent moment in time that okay, once that moment in time passed, now we got 12 more years to sell storable food and gold or whatever you sell. And that's interesting when you go back and listen to some of the older Bill Cooper broadcasters. They were selling gold and talking about the economy back then and selling food. It's the exact same stuff they do now. Nothing's changed, everything's the same, and all the conspiracies are still the same. It just goes round and fucking round because the rabbit hole is an operation. It's not, you didn't discover the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole was written into a story and used as a metaphor. So, but anyway, the point is every time there's one of these dates out in the future, there's a period of time that goes by that there's a lot of speculation about what's going to happen in that future or what may happen on a future date, right, Epic? So one of those dates that people were talking about was after Y2K. The next big date that everybody was scared of was 2012, right?
Yeah, that's right. And they used the Mayan prophecy, they call it, because it's not really a prophecy. It just means the calendar ended on that date. And Eric von Däniken was the first guy who really pointed it out in Chariots of the Gods. And it really got seized upon that, the calendar ends in 2012, and, some people looked at it like, well, they ran out of stone, so it ends right then. But, the people really looked at it and deciphered it, realized that they have what's called Ktuns, and these are the ages of the Mayans. And, it didn't really mean the end. It just mean they plotted out the future to that date. But the Western media really seized on that. All of us who were alive back then, I think most of our listeners right now were alive for that. Think about all the people you heard telling you how, it's going to be this age of transition, transcendence, and we're going to all,
the
be...
lights were going to go out.
Yeah.
The lights were going to go out.
Yeah, just everything. Whether it was a matter of us reaching a higher plane of existence and leaving the people at a lower vibration behind, or whether it was Terence McKenna's Time Wave Zero, or whether it was Return of the Aliens predicted by Eric von Däniken. And it's no coincidence that Ancient Aliens really took off leading into that. They really seized upon that because that was his big thing, Eric von Däniken, that is, who really is the mind behind the Ancient Aliens program. And so, yeah, all this really led into it. And all the people who really try to be spiritual teachers to tell you that, well, this is what's going to happen, and you need to be, to transcend, you need to be ready for it, and buy my crystals or whatever it might be. And there's a ton of these people.
Yeah, we
all remember them.
It is the conspindustry industrial complex, man. It's this long-running conveyor belt where you start at one end, you learn some stuff, and then you head on down the line, and you keep learning more and more stuff. You keep finding out more and more and more and all this. But the thing is that once you get on that conveyor belt, it's super hard to get off of it because now you're in a quandary because, now you've been trained by these other individuals and these bombastic characters to stop, have an intake of any mainstream media. You don't watch the news. You don't do anything. You get all your news off of the internet or off of the alternative media personality that might strike your fancy, right? But the point is that the dude is going and watching the news when he goes home. I mean, guy's coming back talking about some story on Fox News, but 3/4 of the millions of people that listen to him don't watch the news. So he could just say one news story he heard on Fox, and all of a sudden, a couple days later, something happens. He looks like a prophet because most of the people have bought
right.
in. You know what I'm saying? Most of the people have bought in because they believe that they can't, which is true. I mean, listen, seriously. Is there anything that can be trusted from a media standpoint? I mean, so people can't trust the news. They can't trust the mainstream. They can't trust the government. They can't trust the alternative media. Who can people trust, Epic? I mean, they're looking for somebody to trust. They want to trust somebody. But like, who is it? Who's left? Who can people trust? Where can people go? I mean, why do people have this need to find a savior outside of themselves to tell them that everything's not like it seems? At this point, how much of this information do we have to take in before we say to ourselves, okay, I've seen enough, man. The research is in, okay? The research is in. Now what? Have we not reached that now what point? I mean, 2012 didn't happen. And all the prophecies and all the personalities and all the videos that got sold and all that. What was that guy, Lindsay, whatever his nuts was? He used to come on.
Hal Lindsey? Hal Lindsey?
No, not Hal Lindsey. But yeah, there's another one. But no, not Hal Lindsey. This guy was Lindsey something. And he used to come on Alex Jones. And he used to work. I used to work up on the pipelines. And he was the preacher up there. And because he was the preacher, for whatever reason, all the elites who own the oil companies trusted him. And he had this one elite friend who would call him up and tell him what was going to happen. And then he'd come on to Alex Jones and do like an hour-long infomercial, basically teasing it out. And then in the end, he'd sell you this video or whatever from 1995. You know what I'm saying? And then, I mean, he did that so many times. I mean, I can't tell you. It was probably like at least twice a year. And he didn't just go on Alex Jones doing it. I mean, he went everywhere. He was on every show. Yeah, Lindsey Williams, exactly, Cannon. Exactamundo. You know what I mean? Okay, so look, man, I'm not faulting the guy. I'm not faulting the guy for, having a way to make himself a few bucks or whatever. But realistically, did any of it do anybody any good? I mean, it's just a bunch of just a bunch of air, really, isn't it? Epic. I mean, that's what I'm trying to.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing that it's so funny to me because I read all those books. I mean, I'm not saying I read every book ever made or anything, nothing like that. But I mean, I read those books. I read Chariots of the Gods when I was a kid growing up. I read every single freaking alien book or UFO book growing up because I was an interested little kid, or all those cryptozoology books, all those things. And you know what happened when you read you read all those books, you start reading other books. You read all the other scientific books and journals too. When you read those, you kind of add them up and weigh them against each other, and you say, well, hold on now. That calendar thing's bullshit. I mean, the calendar thing's bullshit. If you've done any research on it at all, it's bullshit. But people bought into it because here's this definitive date. It's the end of a calendar, and it's set in stone, and that's the end of this age, right?
Set in stone.
You know who didn't believe it? This is the most important part. The most important part of this is, who didn't believe it was the end of the world? The Mayans.
Well, let's just put it this way. there was a lot of stuff leading up to it. Now there was wasn't there this Elenin meteor or comet that was coming?
Yeah, it was a common Elenin, yeah, and then they tied that was one of the September 23rd ones, wasn't it? It was one of those other, may not have been September 23rd. It's been a couple years ago.
It was all around the same time, but I mean, at the moment in which you believe, and I have to say that the evidence was compelling on that Elenin thing, because there was all these models that were showing it. You know, and they were going from way back, and they were showing how it was coming in on this certain date, and it was just going to skim through, and it just looked like it was going to, I mean, and who knew? I mean, you know, who even conceived that, you know, I'm just saying, at the time, it seemed like it was coming in here. You know? I mean, I thought it was.
Well, it did line up with a lot of things. I remember at the time it was, I think I just moved to Hawaii, right? So it was like 2 years ago. That Elenin was like two and a half. Well, I moved here, my current house, like almost 3 years ago. So, yeah, so that's when it was. It was back then. And yeah, a lot of those things matched up. It sure did. But it didn't pan out, right? In 2012, I mean, 2012 is so funny because, I mean, the best story of 2012 came from Terrence McKenna. That was an awesome theory he had. I don't know if you caught the audio of that. I know I sent it earlier. I don't have a chance to listen to it. But he, you know who Terrence McKenna was? He was the guy who did all the psilocybin, and basically the movie Altered States is kind of based on him.
How long?
He did DMT.
How long is the audio?
It's 10 minutes or 8 minutes. Might be 8 minutes.
We can get into it a little bit, but before we do, it sounds good. Let's get into it a little bit. But I just want to mention Justin Aldrich in the chat just threw down some great information in the chat room. You can find the chat room over at freedomslips.com and join into the chat, because the chat's part of the show. And hey Justin, let me give you my email address, and maybe we can get together and get you on Skype. Like to maybe get to talk to you a little bit. That looks like a great piece. I'll read a little chunk of it. The word truth starts here with the word falsehood and falsedom and false lek. Truth is a direct intent to deceive or to place a hood or a veil over the eyes. True is a covenant, a pledge, a plea to someone's belief system. This will allow one to become blinded to default. Default is the mendacity to fail. Once the blind is placed over the eyes, the plight can become veracity, faith, belief, the diversity of verity. This is where it ends, because the start of the word truth comes from some very deep past of genuine, authentic power. This all links the scales of goodness. Themis, mother of the Dyke daughter to Zeus, then later to fellow Thallo, the son. Istanus. I'm sorry, man. The chat's moving on me. Anyways, Justin Aldrich wrote that there. And is there someplace they can find your work? If you have a website or something, Justin, throw it in the chat skis there, and I will put it out over here on the air as well. My name's Jimmy. What's going on, my eye? Good to see you. RD47 just popped in. Saul, I see you in there. Simply Reddit. You guys were all in here before, though, eh? No? Anyways, my name's Jimmy, like I said, and just want to tell everybody, because you know, there's new listeners coming on board every 12 or 15 minutes. Epic, aren't there? I mean, I hate, people are giving me a hard time about it, but it's just I'm trying to let people know who we are and who I am. So because it's
I was just looking up the comment and the Lenin things to add on to that. It came by and so close to September 11th, right, in 2011. That's what it was, and it broke up. It was coming by. So you had all those years where you're thinking it was going to come by. I know I was thinking it was a couple years ago. There's another one. That's why there's always a comet coming, man. It's like the old Men in Black movie with Will Smith scene.
So like,
there's always a Scar Cruiser out there ready to blow up, Earth.
Right, but so like, when was it, in 2011?
Yeah, it was in October 2011.
Right.
It came
so
by pieces.
then, so by then, everybody who believed that thing was going to hit was in position. Okay, I know I was in position because I moved to where I wanted to be, and I moved up to Colorado. I moved up to the Rockies, man, and that's where I lived, and I stayed there because even after it didn't happen, it didn't matter because 2012 was coming. And
I'd be close to that airport.
Well, no, I'm just saying, if 2012 was coming, I'm just gonna be where I wanted to be, man. And I like Aspen, Colorado a lot, and there's some great hot springs up there, Glenwood Springs, hot springs. If you're ever hurting or you got some ailments, some magical waters there. Their waters are magical, I say. Anyway, yeah. So what we're talking about now, Epic, is we gotta get out of this place. I mean, it's insane. It's the last thing we ever do, right? I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, and that seems to be, this is probably a good segue. I know we're talking about 2000, we're talking about 2012. This is a good segue into their subject conversation. I think it's legit that we need to discuss. And it's the fact that during those time frames, the change of millennia in the 2012 end of the, Mayan calendar, that there were people, varying degrees of wealth, but particularly the super wealthy, who were hedging their bets, and they were building underground bunkers, and they were building places and out to sea with yachts and all these things to make sure that they would survive. They didn't feel any worse or better than we do. They were hedging their bets because they could, right? And so, why is it that all of a sudden, all these people who do have means are building all these bunkers basically all over the world? They are.
Yeah, and I mean, shoot, if you find out about it and start talking about it on the radio, what does that make everybody do? That's down here with the working people. We start buying food. We start buying.
They did that in the 50s, right? I mean, it's an old thing. I mean, it goes back to the Red Scare, right? Because people were building their bomb shelters in their backyard. Right?
It does. And that was a good movie with Brendan Fraser where there's.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up. Yeah. Fallout Man, or not Fallout Man, something like that.
We only got a couple minutes before the break, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to remind you, we're self-support through your contributions. If you can hop on over to freedomslips.com, find yourself an arrangement over there. As far as like what you might want to donate for, and then you get something in return, physically. And you also get the radio airwaves. You get the ether space. You get to enjoy the many, many programs and shows and speakers and talks that go on here on the network. There's so much to choose from. So just want to remind you, if you can do that, that'd be great. Any help would be appreciated, even if you can't actually donate. If you could start maybe letting people know, maybe sharing around, get people come on over to the chat. It's always interesting to have new people come on in and get a different point of view. And, so all these things all work in conjunction to moving everybody in the, direction, forward. And, the more we put ourselves together and raise our vibration, man, we can raise our consciousnesses. Can we have it? I mean, because you notice there's a lot of lower vibrational music that's been infused into the pop culture ever since the year 2000. We can talk about that when we come back. But it's we got about a minute.
I got to equip in. We're talking about the Brendan Fraser movie. We're talking about the vibrations. I just want to point out he came into Hollywood sex shop, whatever, right? In that movie, we'll talk about that later.
Well, what's so funny about that movie too is he comes out of there, doesn't he? And his dad's got all these money stacked up. He was hiding it.
IBM bonds and stuff, right? Yeah, because
yeah, he comes out. He's a millionaire, and some blonde, hot blonde latches onto him right away in Hollywood, doesn't she? It's a story. Oh man, who knows? So anyhow, this is Into the Microcosm. We're here every Friday night. We're a late night show. So if we dropped any F-bombs and we apologize. But we're figuring it's almost midnight here on the West Coast. I'm in Santa Cruz, California, deep in the redwoods. Epic. It is freezing cold here, man. I'm tell you right now. I got my thermals on. I mean, I didn't even get the propane for the studio yet, and it's freezing cold in here, man. I'm sure you don't have that problem over there, though.
No, I don't. I don't. It's still freaking hotter than heck. Although I turned off my air conditioner a little bit ago, so maybe it's finally turning.
All right. Well,
yeah,
I'm sure this break is going to be happening any moment. So why don't we just step away? Let's back away slowly, Epic. Away from the back away slowly, Epic. Slowly back away. We're gonna go. Here we go.
Forgive me, I'm a rider. Still, I'm just a simple man. All I want is money, fuck the fame. I'm a simple daddy nigga. Now tell me how you
Collision courses back. Schedule B on Revolution Radio.
Revolution Radio.
You get outer space.
I'm off the call, just so you guys know. I'll join it.
Truthful answers and a place to engage with questions. Take part in the discussion. Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com hosts Collision Course every Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific.
I got to get the trailer for 2012. All right, we don't have much time.
Several years ago, I was developing a very severe situation. I called it my flippy heart. It just was doing not good things, and I did not want to go to a medical doctor.
Uh-oh. Let me mute this. Hang on. Yeah. Before we get busted. Let's see if this trailer's any good. Hang on. I know you can hear me talking. You're not going to hear the trailer because I got it turned down because I can't play that ad. Okay, here we go.
Extend.
Here we go. Ad still playing. Stand by. I got all these windows open. It's wild. It's crazy. All right, you guys are backstaging it. Sorry. There's like 9 minutes of break. Uh-oh, here we go. We're about to go live, Ski. We're about to go live. I gotta go back. My name's Jimmy, into the microcosm, Revolution Radio. Sitting here with the Epic Journeyman. We are doing the time warp, ladies and gentlemen. We're time warping back to 1999 and going into the year 2000, going into the fear-mongering for the next 12 years, all the way up to the year 2012 and beyond, Epic. The fear just doesn't stop, does it, man? I mean, there's still, at this point, there's still something to be afraid of at this point, isn't there?
Yeah, it's only changed. It's just changed. I'm sorry, some doubling there in the audio, but yeah, it's only changed its face a little bit, but the gist of it's the same. It's some existential threat. It's always been an existential threat. If you go back, it was nuclear war, back post World War II. It was right now it's artificial intelligence, right?
Well, do you remember, speaking of artificial intelligence, do you remember the web bot?
I sure do.
Okay, so remember the web bot, like in the beginning, those guys had a hit on a couple of things, right? They had they had the tsunami, and they had something else. And at the time, he was teamed up with this dude by the name of George Ure, U-R-E, and they were doing this financial thing because they were inferring that his web bot had some ability to predict the future. And so he was teamed up with this cat who was a financial dude, and these two guys would get together. And at the time, he was rolling around. This is back in the day. This is like when they first rolled out. He was selling memberships for like $700, and people were paying it because he had a couple hits, and he had good talk. But here's the thing about it. This is why I'm bringing it up, because you brought up Time Wave Zero. Because there were a lot of people that were saying that his whole thing, all it really was a skimming program that just kind of checked trends and stuff. And that it was just, the whole thing was just made up, and he was utilizing the structure of Time Wave Zero to make his predictions about these things that were going to happen in the distant future that were going to be all, a certain way.
Yeah, Time Wave Zero was a computer program. Terrence McKenna was messing around with this program, and every single model he ran seemed to end in 2012. And he died, I believe, in 2008. We can check that out. But I know he was living here where I live. He was living, his house is right down the street from where mine is, basically. It's not a house. He has some property close by. But the thing is, here on the Big Island. So he walked back a little bit later on, but he started to go more with the idea of how the almost like the shell of a nautilus, right? As it goes from the wider arc on the outside, goes to the narrower one on the inside, it gets closer together, and dimensions and universes collide at the center. And what he imagined was that sometime either in 2012 or somewhere focused on that point, time travel was invented. That was part of his hypothesis. And when this happened, that nothing after 2012 would ever be the same again, because these bleeding universes were so close together, and it was like penetrating the veil. It's a really interesting theory. I really liked it.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
It's very. I'm saying it is interesting, but the thing is if you've never heard of Time Wave Zero, but there's a lot of people that have never heard of it, or never heard of it up until the point that it was in the focus of people's attention, because there was a period of time where people were really into it. And there was all kinds of mathematics behind it too.
For 20 years ahead of time, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there was it had a solid foundation, so there was no reason to. But I'm just saying, it's just one of those things. Because at the point that you have something called the mainstream, and then you have something that's called the alternative media. But even in the alternative media is not going to present certain information to people. So, and even if you think you're super in the know, and you're because you're in the alternative or independent media stuff, you think you're super in the know. You're super in the know. Yes, there's nothing wrong with that. And you're an investigator, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with any of it. But the bottom line is, there's always this aspect, this stuff that we don't know, that changes everything. And so if something's being thrown at us, that's for the most part, everything someone's saying about it is true, but they're just not even showing you a whole aspect of it. In other words, there was a period of time when a lot of people liked hearing about what David Icke had to say, as long as he didn't say anything about lizards. So, I mean, Alex Jones would have him on, but, I mean, he would never talk about lizards. You know what I mean? But, I mean, times have gotten to the point now where it's totally okay for David Icke to talk about lizards, because that's where it's gotten. It's gotten to that point where now even lizards are possible. In other words, at this point, there's been so much information put out there. Some of it's real, some of it's not real, some of it's hearsay, some of it's speculation. Somebody speculated, then someone hearsay, and then someone wrote a book about it, and then someone stole from that and made a radio show on it. I mean, it's like, this is constant regurgitation of the same information over and over again, man. You can go back. Look, people have made careers out of the, Report from Iron Mountain, Silent Weapon for Quiet Wars. You know what I'm saying? People, literally made careers out of it. Not that that's bad. I'm not, like I said, nothing's wrong with any of this stuff, man. But it's just, the thing is like, to have some idea that there's some high-minded, motive behind what people are doing that are super successful at making money off of doing this stuff. There's the high motive is to try to get as much money in the bank accounts as people can. And, money bombs come in or whatever, but who really donated on those money bombs? Really no way to know. But maybe, but right. I'm just saying, saying, man, Big Bone comes in, and then about a week later, you get a phone call from somebody and say, hey, man, did you notice a big bone come in? Well, why don't you...
Exactly $109,072. Just look at that one. Yeah, right.
That's right. That's who this is.
Yeah.
So you just think about that. It doesn't... Listen, best thing people can do, honestly, is try to get back to being family orientated and, being around the family or finding something good to do that, put some good energy in yourself. Get grounded, go walk around, go down to the beach if you can, go visit grandma for a while, listen to some stories. There's been a big disconnect from the older generations for a reason, because they've been through all these different things. And even though, as a younger person, they seemed irrelevant, like their opinions didn't matter. But then as you progress in your own development as a person, you see that those older people were really right about a lot of what they were saying. A lot about what they were saying was actually right. And, but as a young person, you're like, these old people don't know what they're talking about,
I just had the song The Chain from Fleetwood Mac just came to mind, right? Because that chain is the chain of our heritage, right? The chain of our forefathers, the chain of the people who came before us. and the family that follows after us, right? So I don't know if that was the intention when they wrote the song. I'm just saying that song came to mind because you can't break that link. It's only as good as a chain is only as good as its weakest link. And when you break the link, then the chain's broken, right? And that chain could be a chain of DNA. That chain could be a chain of your heritage. Chain could be the chain of the knowledge that you know and are going to pass on to future generations. When you break that chain, then you lose the ancient wisdom of the past, going forward with the generation of the future. And that's what's happening to us. I think when we talk about, everybody talks about nuclear threats and all these other threats. And back, right now, the idea of controlling both sides of the narrative goes back to Persia and Samaria, right? They did. The Syrians may have been in cahoots at some point with the Babylonians, and who knows, right? Until one took over the other. But the idea being that, if you control both sides of the narrative, it's just like 1984, where both sides are playing the same.
Yeah, the thing is they want to have everybody individualized. They want everybody individually packaged, Epic, into their own little box, where they get fed the information right to them, spoon-fed it right to them, and they sit there all day long and spend their energy going nowhere fast, man. Just like the Three Seasons say, "You're going nowhere fast, man." Yeah, exactly. We're going nowhere fast, and that's the point we're trying to make too. Is when we're talking about these past ideas of the 2000 and 2012 and the subsequent. I don't know. We should sit down someday and count how many of these apocalyptic predictions got made each year. You can see that there's a direct pattern twice a year where money must be raised. Instead of being like we are here, self-supporting, and we're not embarrassed to just ask you point blank about it and say, hey, give us a hand because we could use it. So if you like the content that's going on the station, then you donate to it, and then boom, right? So, but there's all these other covert actions that go on. There's people that want to make livings off of, giving information out over the air. And once you start making a living out of it, well, then it's a horse of a different color. Like Epic said, man. Remember that $109,000, $743.22? You better get hopping, boy. Every man's got his price, man. Every man's got his breaking point, too. And that's true. Every man's got his price. It doesn't matter. Somebody can just keep saying. And believe me, listen, as far as corruption goes, as far as all these people and these players that are these political players, corruption, imagine money is no object. In other words, hey, Epic, what if I give you $1 million? You say no. All right, Epic, what if I give you $5 million? No. What if I give you $100 million, Epic? No. What if I give you $1 billion, Epic? And I let you be, I'm going to give you a really cool name, all right? And then I'm going to let you be the head of my Silicon Valley company. All right? I'm going to give you the $1 billion. All you have to do for me, Epic, is ride around in a limo or whatever sports car you choose out of your garage. We'll fill it with whatever you want. Eventually, just pop out and make statements. You know what I mean? How's that sound? $1 billion. And of course, we'll give you a salary per year as well.
There's a movie that came out in the 80s at the peak of the greed is good, Mr. Greco from Wall Street era. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It was
Wall
a comedy.
Street.
It was a really good comedy. It had Judge Reinhold, had Judge Seymour, had Danny DeVito, a bunch of guys. But Jane Seymour was the one that I was going to specifically say. She's really hot. She's still hot. She's an old lady and she's hot, right? But she was really hot in that movie. And she's an executive.
It was Michael
and
Douglas.
she's talking to Judge Reinhold. What's that?
Michael Douglas and Tom Cruise in Wall Street. Is where,
that's I
where
mentioned that specifically.
that's where greed is good came from.
Greed is good, right? And so they're kind of playing on that in this comedy where Judge Reinhold's a junior executive. He's coming up to the ranks, and it's got Eddie Arnold and Judge. It'll come to me the name of the movie. I know our listeners will correct me and bring it in soon. But the point is that in the movie, Jane Seymour has this great line where she's doing this soliloquy. I mispronounced that. Sorry. Where she's saying, you come in here and you're given this opportunity to take she's basically, to paraphrase, saying take the money, take the offer, because you know the good you can do with it, right? Because you want to do the good, right? That's $1 billion offer you just said. And she goes, but then you find that you make concessions along the way to where you forget
Excuse me. Sorry.
What it was you wanted to do in the first place, right? What it was, you forget all the good you wanted to do. Yeah, and it was really kind of poignant because 80s comedy, you know.
Yeah, but it's not it's not lonely at the top, man. Just in case anybody wants to know, it's not lonely at the top. There's a bunch of people. They all want a chunk of what you got. So it's definitely never lonely. The only loneliness comes when you're in the confines of your own head, which is almost never. Because if you got to run around the world making smart statements everywhere, it takes up a lot of energy, doesn't it? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, my name's Jimmy, into the microcosm. This Revolution Radio, and you're knee deep in it right here, right now. So 2012 the all-seeing, did they even come up with, weren't they even coming up with like Nostradamus was saying a bunch of stuff now? It looked like 2012 was going to...
The quatrains of Nostradamus. Yeah, you know what's so funny about that is if you look at them now, it's like totally preposterous. It seemed pretty convoluted at the time. But you look at it now, it's like, no. no, But they were grasping at straws, trying to make everything converge in that point. It just shows the power of the human mind, how when you want to converge on something, you can make it happen.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I mean, the people, there's a lot of, I hate to bring up the news and politics, whatever right now, but these people on both sides of this issue with America right now, there's people who believe that, Donald Trump's right. There's people who believe that he's always evil, whatever it might be. It's all fake news and whatever. But, the thing is, the facts are the facts. And the fact that there's people who are disregarding reality on both sides, it's just remarkable to me.
Isn't it like hitting yourself in the face with a hammer? How many times do you hit yourself in the face with a hammer before you stop hitting yourself in the face with a hammer, man? Because, like I was saying earlier, how much information do we all need? I'm still doing it too. So I'm still looking for information. I'm still researching stuff. But how much is enough? When have I proven it to myself, and now it's time for me to move on and, raise my attention to something else and make something happen. All the many hours that I've spent learning about all this information really hasn't necessarily, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, has it done me any good? I don't know. My head's full of a bunch of stuff that I know. But in the end, it helps me every day in solving problems that, whatever I'm doing, everything, the culmination of everything I've learned, comes out in every single little action that I, think about. But, the point is, like, in the end, does it really mean anything? No. I think, spending time, like we were talking about, being with your family is something that matters. That's one of the things about the Amish, people think the Amish are a certain thing or a certain way, but one of the things about the Amish is one of the reasons that they don't advance the technology in the community is because older people, as technology advances, the older people's ability to keep up with being able to comprehend it or utilize it starts to dwindle. And they're not as savvy with the technology as it moves forward, and they become useless. And then they become, they die off, they get sick, da-da-da-da. But in the Amish community, everything's always just like it has been, and so people can work and be active in their lifestyle for a longer period of time. They know how to use a plow. They know how to light a candle. They know how to steer a horse. I'm just saying. So the thing is because those people are all together in a family unit, you have the ability to have wisdom of the older generations to add to, the input to the younger people, so they could learn from some of the mistakes that you made, or some, but separating the young from the old, the male from the female, the black from the white, the people of color from this, all this separation just, completely keep reducing the area down to eliminating everything until you end up in this box where all you're doing is just, you're a sensory input device for the system with your phone in one hand, your iPad in the other hand, and the end, right? So now what do we do? What do we do to move forward? I don't know, but let's see if we can get this thing to play right now. Let me see if we can do it. If we can do it, great. If not, I don't know. How would the governments of our planet prepare 6 billion people for the end of the world? Well, too bad this is a radio show, because that's a terrifying video right there.
Is that Endgame, the beginning of Endgame?
No, it's 2012 trailer. But
it's 2012 trailer. Well, the trailer gets better later on. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the
Head Office was a movie I was talking about earlier, by the way, with Miss Jane Seymour,
yeah,
who was absolutely a knockout at the time. Well, like I said, she still is, but that was 1985. She's still holding up pretty good.
Well, the point is that now, about, I'd say, the last 9 months or so, this supposed leaked CIA document called the Adam and Eve story, that started to go out into rotation, out and about. And
nothing gets leaked by the CIA, by the way. That way,
right? The company, man. The company.
Yeah.
The company, man. But yeah. So but so anyhow, so apparently there was I don't know the lore exactly, but I think there was some thing that was put out and then it was retracted, and it's basically, a 3 mile after 1,000-mile-an-hour winds wipe clean the area, except for whatever cement buildings there might be, like huff and puff and blow your building down. And then right after that, there's like a 3-mile tidal wave that goes washing over the whole United States. So you basically got no chance to survive. And it looks exactly like the plot line of 2012, in the sense that the storyline and the visuals from 2012 kind of coincide. So it's interesting, just because, there's been a lot of talk about this end of the world situation, and now you got this, Adam and Eve story circulating. I mean, if you want, once you take the, let me toss you the captain's cap, and I'm gonna pop over here and go see if I can find a piece of information about this for people.
Yeah, see if you can find that. I read that just recently, that whole Adam and Eve story thing. I mean, a lot of this goes into the idea of what Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock were talking about, which ties into Göbekli Tepe. It talks about the end of the Cenozoic era and how the extinction of the megafauna occurred about 13,000 years ago, 12,500, 13,000 years ago, which is when Göbekli Tepe was buried, deliberately buried. And you had the caverns in Turkey that housed 20,000 plus people. And yeah, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting thing, because when you look at the idea of this massive tsunami that went across North America and the collapse of the North American ice sheet, and the fact that no animal over 200 pounds survived, it makes a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense. And one of the other interesting things that ties into that also is the fact that the cycle of was discovered in the 80s, and this has not been confirmed since, but a series of NOAA researchers, NOAA, had found that there were these core samples in the basalt at the sea floor that showed flips in magnetism every approximately 13,000 years. So it ties right into the cycle again. So it does make it interesting that there's this cycle that appears to happen, and this particular cycle ties into the decline of a civilization, and in this case, in Göbekli Tepe, the deliberate burial of that civilization, and the fact that people went underground 20 miles away or so, right? Which ties also kind of into the whole Noah story, except that instead of floating on an ark, they were underground.
Exactly. I mean, I just dropped the link to this Adam and Eve story, which was it shows the whole thing. If you're interested in it, ladies and gentlemen, there she be. So there's really nothing, I don't know. Let me see. I'm trying to roll through here. Here, it says, with a rumble so low as to be inaudible, growing, throbbing, and then fuming into a thundering roar, the earthquake starts. Only it's not like any earthquake in recorded history. In California, the mountains shake like ferns in the breeze. The mighty Pacific rears back and piles up into a mountain of water more than 2 miles high. Then starts the race eastward. With a force of 1,000 armies, the winds attacks, ripping, shredding everything in its supersonic bombardment. The unbelievable mountains of the Pacific, its seawater flows the wind eastward, burying Los Angeles and San Francisco as if they were but grains of sand. Nothing stops the relentless, overwhelming onslaught of wind and ocean. Across the continent, the 1,000-mile-per-hour wind wreak havoc in its unholy vengeance everywhere, mercilessly, unceasing, every living thing ripped into shreds while being blown across the countryside. In many places, the Earth's molten sublayer breaks through and spreads a sea of white-hot liquid fire and add to the Holocaust. Within 3 hours, the fantastic wall of water moves across the continent, burying the wind-ravaged land under 2 miles of seething water. Coast to coast epic, in a fraction of a day, all vestiges of civilization are gone. The great cities Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, New York, they're nothing but legends and barely a stone's left, where millions had just walked hours before. Listen to this.
I'm trying to get you
Listen
a link
to this.
that I think you'd
Listen
enjoy.
to this. A few lucky ones who managed to find shelter from the screaming wind on the lee side of Pikes Peak. That's up on the Rockies. Watch the sea of molten fire break through the quaking valleys below. The raging waters follow, piling higher and higher, steaming over the molten earth fire and rising almost to their feet. Well, that's 12,000, 13,000 feet, man. They're saying 6,500 years, Noah, 11,500 years, Adam and Eve, this too will come to pass. So there we are. So now, that's pretty intense, man. I mean, that's a pretty intense, that's
Yeah,
pretty...
give me 30 seconds to get this link. You can like this.
Well, I could see why the CIA confiscated that material immediately. That's some pretty hardcore material, I must say. That is some triple X doom porn, blasphemous Buddha, for sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you don't have any kids up this late at night. It's at 3 in the morning in the East Coast, something like that. It's 12:30 here in the West. I'm going to be the first one who gets hit by that wall of water, man. But you know what? What are you going to do? I'll tell you what, man. I don't spend 1 minute of any day, 1 second worrying about that wall of water coming at all. I used to, though. I used to give stuff like this a lot of weight, though. And it used to take me down, man. It used to make me feel bad and make me feel, you know. But, I mean, how many of these do you know, where there's this day that's something supposed to happen, time of day or whatever, and it's supposed to happen tomorrow or whatever. Tomorrow's not supposed to come, and you go to sleep that night. You can't sleep all night, but eventually you fall asleep. Your eyes get heavy, you know, you just doze out. And then the next day you wake up and everything's still here. 2000, everything was still here. The next day, December 20, whatever, 3rd, the next day, it was all still here. And you know what? Charging up all your credit cards, thinking it was the end of the world. People did that, man. People went out and spent all their money, man. It's the end of the world, man. Hey, man, what else matters? If something's going to hit, make a direct hit on the planet, and it's shown on all this shit. I mean, at that point, of knowing that, what else matters after that? I mean, do any other little idiosyncratic details about how you're getting lied to by so many people even matter at that point? No. Does any of it matter at any point? No. Is it interesting? Yes. People are turned on by that stuff right there, blasphemous Buddha. People get turned on by that negativity right there. And they go right over to the taco stand down in Austin, Texas, and get a big old burrito of negativity, and bow down to it and give the energy to it and feed the beast and make it bigger. And eventually, the reality that Alex Jones has been screaming about for all those years is going to come to pass. And everybody will get what they wanted, And meanwhile, lives get wasted in between here and there. Eventually that day's going to come. The moment of truth comes for everybody. I know it's come for me a few times. You know what I mean? The moment of truth is going to come, and that day's going to come, and it's going to be something nobody expected. They're not even going to expect it at all. Not going to even think about it, and boom, boom, and that's going to happen. And then that's it. And then it happens. And then what? Then where do you go from there? What happens? The movie The End, where they're, everybody turns into cannibals or whatever. I mean, The Road, I mean. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, look at all the dystopia. Why does it always have to go straight to the dystopia? You know what I mean? Because
go to 125 with the link I just played you. It exactly captures the essence of what you're saying, the cadence and everything. It's awesome.
So listen. Why do we have to go immediately to the dystopia, dude? Why can't we go immediately to the utopia? I mean, why does it always have to be? Why does everything seem to be grounded right into the negativity? In every way, shape, or form. It's never...
That's why they call it gravity, right? It's why because it's grave. It's pulling you down. It's gravity, right?
You're taking a beating from gravity.
Yeah.
Is it in this Is it in this chat box over here?
Yeah. So it's in the chat box, and go to 125 or 8. You just play the little the poetical intro. It's only a couple seconds, but exactly what you're just saying, like the cadence and everything you just did.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
awesome.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so do what? Minute and what?
Yeah, so it's like a minute and 28 seconds
Alright.
or a minute 25. Start there, and
Alright.
then just let it play a little bit. You'll know where to stop.
Right. So this is in the Microcosmos Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And we're on YouTube as well, in the Microcosmos Jimmy Jean. That's WITH. You can get a hold of me at 41, number 4, number 1, Jimmy, JIMYGENE, Jean, at gmail.com. 41, Jimmy Jean, at gmail.com. So go to what's the number? One what?
125 is a good spot.
All right. Hang on. Yeah. Well then. So then there.
Yeah.
Nah. So then there. How far are you going back? Way back.
Well, yeah, this is Cavemen Drawn on the Walls. Is the album cover.
Yeah.
It's
Interesting.
From the Moody Blues to our children's children.
Yeah. Well, it's not playing. So, anyways,
I
I wasted.
You had it a second ago.
I wasted enough time. Here we go. So, Epic. Did you move to Hawaii because you thought, man, if shit goes down, I just want to be somewhere. I just want to be where I know I can just be. Because, I mean, your situation is one that anybody that lives on an island like you do, I mean, you'd be able to just basically get your snorkel, your spear. You could just bust out and, go get yourself some dinner, and just get a coconut, drink some coconut water or whatever. You know what I mean? Cut a pineapple down. I mean, but most people are not in that situation. Most people, it's going to be the same to you. It's pretty much the same to you whether the world ends or it doesn't, right? You're in paradise already.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I'm on a volcanic island, so the volcano could go anytime. It did go, right? It stopped. It's beautiful here right now, but before I moved here, I lived in Maui for a couple years, and when I first went there, I went there for vacation, and I had my mass flippers, spear gun, a rental car, and a tent, and my guitar. And my rental car thing expired. I said, you know what? I'm not going back. So for about 3 months, I lived on the beach, spearing fish and picking mangoes and breadfruit, man. I just totally lived off the land. It was awesome. Ended up buying a bicycle, ended up finally going, getting a job and all that stuff and living there. But the most satisfying experience I ever had was living off the land and spearing enough fish or picking enough fruit or building my own fire and all those things combined ideally to where you can invite other people to share in your good fortune. And it made me think this is what humans are supposed to do. I mean, this is what we're supposed to do. I mean, we share our stories around the campfire. We share the food we gathered, the tales of the hunt, right? Taking on the shark out there on the reef or whatever it might be. And that's the fulfillment of life. I mean, everything you've done in the course of that day led to this culmination at the end of the day to make that single day the most valuable thing you have, right?
Yeah,
and so I thought this is awesome, right? And so, yeah, when I had the opportunity to come out here, there was two things at play. One, I wanted to get back and live that kind of existence again. I'm still not really, because I'm an older guy out there having a regular job, but I can if I want to, and I do go out and do these kind of things somewhat. And the food's here. The food's here, the water's here, everything's here. So, yeah, I do want to be able to live an analog existence, free of the digital world if I want to.
Well, and so the thing is that if everything was shut off, no one would be able to get to those islands. You know what I mean? If there's no cars, you're not walking across no desert. You know what I mean? People don't realize that, like, when it's all shut off, it's just like it was back in the West when they were trying to cross the continent, when they're trying to get to the West. The way things happen. That's exactly how it all happened, because there isn't any. I mean, you can't. The distance between the coast of California and the Pikes Peak, where they were just talking about, if you decided you wanted to get to Pikes Peak, how would you get there? I think it's like, I think it's like 1,300 miles from California to Aspen, Colorado. So,
yeah, 3 months of walking. basically.
3 months.
Where you have a horse, yeah.
If you could survive. I mean, the temperatures in that desert. I mean, plus there's that whole area where it's like, man, I can't think of the name of it, but there's a canyon there that's kind of, it's Grand Canyon-esque in a way. It's just like.
Well, there's a Badlands if you're going across the other way too. I mean, it's all what that's. The whole thing is that you can't hope to do better than 10 miles a day, right, on foot. And if you have horses, you can maybe go 20 miles a day, and a good day 30 miles a day.
10 miles a day if you got water, but you can't have enough water because you can't carry water because carrying the water is heavy. And so you yeah. So the thing is,
you gotta feed your livestock and your horse and all that stuff too, or you give them something to drink. So
So I mean, so the thing is there's going to be a bunch of dead skeletons, carcasses, laying across the desert that are never making it to Pikes Peak. But see, worrying about that for 1 minute doesn't even make any sense, right? So I mean, but if you are all of a sudden thrown into a situation where you are is where you're going to be, and you're going to have to be able to survive where that is, and so a lot of people in urban environments, urban situations, it's going to be tough for people to be able to figure out a way to, how to have an existence. So I think those are going to be the areas that people would, if something was to happen or any of these predictions, were to come true, I think, in these urban environments, I think there'd be a lot of fighting at first. And then whoever was left would, fighting and stealing what was there, and then, after that there wouldn't be anything, and then it would be basic, just, every man for himself or whatever. I mean, there's a million movies about it.
So 2012 was all about that, though, right? We were either going to transcend, or the lower vibrational people were going to be left behind and have to deal with the kind of world we're describing, where they have to, go to where the food is and go to, escape the, dark lower vibration overlords that run society and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we're just stuck there. I mean, that was where it was. It really bothers me, actually, that here we are. It's only 7 years later, and people don't remember that. Like if you were surfing YouTube or out there on the internet back in 2012, well, or actually let's say 2009 to 2011, going into 2012 in particular, do you remember what you were looking at? I mean, I remember what I was looking at. I remember all the stuff that was out there. It was ridiculous, actually, in retrospect. And these people made a lot of money, selling a lot of books, and doing a lot of lectures, based on this is a true definition of fear porn, to do this. And I don't think that better than, probably 10% of them actually believe what they're saying at a certain point. They just continued on to make money, right? Which is what we're talking about our man Alex, in this case. He totally turncoated. I don't mean like he's a traitor. I mean, he just totally changed his story. What he says today is completely 180 out what he said, 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So
but the thing is people are so lazy once they trust somebody that they don't go and look at anything. No one's going to go back and look at these broadcasts. I mean, when I played that tape earlier today, man, it was really hard for me not to decide to do the whole show specifically about the whole Jones operation down in Austin, Texas. I mean, there's believe me, man, there's a whole slew of bodies, man. I don't mean people have died. Maybe they have. I don't know. I'm not saying that they were or they have. But career-wise, there's a whole bunch of people that have been destroyed by that guy on his way up to getting to where he is. He's got a lot of money and a lot of success. I never try to say anything bad about Alex Jones as far as being a good businessman and a good person, somebody who's smart about, the way he does what he does. But at the same time, I would never point to him and say he was a purveyor of truth. I would
not at all. Not at all. No, I agree with that. And I think that
he doesn't have to be, though, too. Let's just say that he doesn't have to be, and he doesn't.
No, he's an entertainer. It's like Rush Limbaugh does not believe half the stuff he says, or probably better than 80% of the stuff he says. He does it because he's an entertainer. He justifies the things he does, living in a subterranean bunker out there, and going to, Haiti and freaking places like that, Dominican Republic, with his Viagra and his OxyContin, trips, because he can, right? Because he's just providing a service that people want to hear. He's providing people what they want to hear. And that's what Alex Jones is doing now, in my opinion. That's just an opinion. But I'll say that, what I heard of him, I didn't follow him early on at all. I didn't really follow him later on. I just heard him and observed him. He's changed dramatically over this time frame.
Well,
he's nowhere near the same as he was, back then when he first started.
I think if you said 9 out of 10, if you asked 9 out of 10 people that are into this alternative information, they'd say that the first person they ever heard of was Alex Jones, because he was out there first with 9/11 Road to Tyranny, and then he had Terror Storm and the Obama Deception and all that. I remember when he was coming out with the Obama Deception, and he was almost finished with editing it or whatever. And some people were coming. He thought somebody was coming. The company was coming over to his studio.
The company man.
Yeah, and he's on the air. He's like, release it, release the info bomb, release it, and he was gonna release it free on Prison Planet or whatever. And he's like, release the info bomb, I gotta get it out there before they stop me, and everybody fucking totally went for it, man.
Yeah, I grew up. I was lucky enough to grow up with a conspiracy family. I guess.
Little Barry. That's a good band, I'm telling you right now. My name's Jimmy. This is Revolution Radio. Wakey, wakey. Epic. Man. We only got 10 minutes left, believe it or not. That's unbelievable, man. This show has flown by, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you being here. Chat room's bristling with activity. What are you up to over there, Epic? Are you spearfishing?
No. Actually, my only time in the water this week was a couple days ago. I got to walk around and wade around out there at A-Bay, they call it, here in the Big Island. But I try to get out there. When I can. It's been really, really hot. But it's starting to cool down in my imagination anyway. It's still 90s during the day, but it's cooling down at night better. It's in the evening, so it feels cooler, But yeah, I mean, the thing is, no matter where you are, there you are, right?
Yeah,
it's all about you, your idea,
yeah.
and your central mindset that makes everything livable or not livable, right? It's all about us. It's all about us. It's all about our minds, and that seems to be that really is the battle. I mean, the book was called The Battle for the Mind. The book takes you, 30 years to probably get. Now you got a request for the library. It came out in 1932. I think it was 32. Yeah, because they knew all this way back then, So it's all about controlling the population, and don't be controlled, man. Just like Jimmy, like you're just saying, go out and spend time with your family. Go out and walk in the water and the beach, and live life as it's supposed to be lived. Because
that's what you should do. Is throw the AI off and do some unpredictable behavior, like go visit your grandma, go walk a dog. You know what I mean? Go down to the park. Go get some fresh air. Go do something. Go get a book. Get an actual book, like an actual book. Like get one from the library and, feel that page. Turn the page. Like What's His Nuts said. Bob Seger. Turn the page.
Here I am.
Strung out on the road. But yeah, my name's Jimmy. We're strung out on Revolution Radio in the middle of the night, and we're going to be here every single Friday night. So if you can get small enough to get through the door, then you're in. If your head actually gets full of information when you're in here and you can't leave, then stick around. Doesn't matter, because the next show will definitely be something there for you to hear. And if you don't like that show, boom, you pop over to another Studio B stream and see what's going on over there. But don't worry, man. Just kick it on the couch, and we'll be back next Friday night at 11 Pacific, and also on Mondays at 3 Pacific. And that's like 6 in the East. Epic. But anyway, next week, since we only got 4 minutes left, essentially, next week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a look at the movie Rollerball. And we're also going to bring back in hour 2 the Star Trek archaeologist with the episode Good Kirk, Bad Kirk. So that'll be a hot one, man. Can't wait for that. Don't forget, check us out on YouTube, Into the Microcosm with WITH Jimmy G. My other channel got canceled and it had a W/. So you got to go to WITH and then you'll find it. And there we are. Sound quality over there is good. So there's a whole bunch of videos over there. Unfortunately, not all the shows we've done are there, and our archives are missing someplace. But there's enough for you to get an idea what we're about anyway, because we're new over here. We're the new kids on the block with the white tennis shoes. We're just hoping that nobody's gonna, nobody's gonna get pissed. We'll see. I don't know, man. They banned me over there for no reason. I swear to God, I've never had a community guideline strike. I've never had a copyright strike. Yet my channel, my ability to broadcast live just gets shut off for no reason. And there's nobody to talk to except the AI. It's clearly, automated responses. They have no interest in even talking to me. Which is interesting because I'm right in the Bay Area. I mean, I could drive right over to YouTube and see what's going on with that. But recently, I guess there was somebody that got their channel blown up. I mean, in the last year sometime, and they went over there and shot up YouTube.
that girl, right? Yeah, that was the bad Kirk. They went over there. Yeah,
well, they don't.
Bad Kirk,
that's what I
female
mean.
version.
You don't want to just innocently show up over there trying to find out about your channel, though. You might just get your ass shot.
Spock.
Help me, Spock. Help me.
I don't know what to do.
So right. I do know what to do, though. What to do is next week. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back. But I think we're going to be able to have some guests on the Monday show, and that's the important thing because our late night show, I have a lot of really great guests that we can have on. It's just for the late night show, it's got to be scheduled a lot of times in advance because coming on late night's hard for a lot of people, especially because guests come from around the world and there's all these different time frames. But we have some guests coming on here soon and try to bring some interesting content and some conversations. Try to instill some conversations right here within our own little circle between me and Epic and who other guests come up, but also hopefully, spark some conversations over there in the chat room, freedomslips.com. And don't forget, we are self-supported through the contributions and the generous contributions of the listeners. So whatever contribution you can make, if you can't make a monetary contribution, please share. Let people know where they can find these the great content here and the freedoms and the speech that we all get to enjoy. Because the house that the Nighthawk built. All right, well, check it out. We're going to bone out, ladies and gentlemen. We've appreciated Epic. You got anything, last words to say before we take off and back into the Easter hole?
No, just to quote a great philosopher of the future, be excellent to each other and party on.
This is what I remember from high school.
Ladies, I'ma love you anyway, even if you cannot stay. Wait now. This is what I remember from high school. Ladies, I'ma love you anyway, even if you cannot stay.
All right, we're gone. You there, Epic?
I'm here.
All right, yeah, we're still on YouTube. So I just want to say, hey, goodbye, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I haven't been over there in the chat room. I've been super busy with everything going on here. So I really appreciate everybody stopping by. Epic, you got any last words for the YouTubers?
Hey, just hello, Alan. Dropped in there. Hello, Ken. And everybody else who's
Who's
dropped
in
in
there?
I might have missed.
Who's in there, man? Say hello to them. If you can see
Ken's
him.
there. Alan Rotman. Alan Holman's in there.
Oh, hey, Alan.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, man? Hey, guys. Hey, Illuminati. Who else is in there? Anybody else?
It says there's 4. I'm missing somebody. I can't find them.
Yeah. Hey, man. Thanks for being here, you guys. Really appreciate it, man. So, hey, we're gonna head on out. I definitely got to get something to eat, man. I'm starving like Marvin. So, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate everything, man. Seriously. All right, here we go. We're going to take off somewhere. I'm going to find something to play, and then we'll go. All right.
I am the god of hellfire, and I bring